It was supposed to be just a normal Friday night, a little escape after a long week, a few drinks, bad singing, nothing more. My husband, Daniel, had planned it with his friends. "You never come out anymore," he'd said. "You need fun too." The karaoke bar was tucked behind a hotel, dim lights and neon reflections bleeding off every surface. The air smelled of perfume, whiskey, and burnt lime. Laughter came in waves, off-key notes, clinking glasses, the chaotic heartbeat of people pretending not to be tired of their lives. Daniel was already 2 beers in before we'd even sat down. His voice was loud, his jokes louder. I smiled, but my glass emptied faster than it should have. I wasn't really there, not until I heard that voice. It came from the small stage, raw but steady. The song was one I hadn't heard in years, our song, back when Daniel and I used to drive with the windows down, before marriage became calendar reminders and polite silence. But it wasn't Daniel singing. It was someone else. He stood under the red light, tall, dark shirt clinging to his shoulders, eyes closed like he was somewhere far away. When he reached the chorus, he looked up. Straight at me. For a moment, the bar noise vanished. There were only his eyes and that song, every word landing like a secret I'd forgotten. Daniel laughed from the table behind me, raising his drink, shouting something about how "this guy's killing it." He didn't see that I wasn't laughing. When the song ended, the stranger smiled, not at the crowd, not at the applause, but at me. And something inside me, quiet for too long, stirred like a chord being struck again after years of silence. I told myself it was just a song. Just a look. Just a night. But even as Daniel stumbled toward the bar for another round, I knew, some nights don't stay harmless for long. The next round came fast, shots, cheers, a new wave of noise. Daniel was already leaning heavier on the table, laughing at jokes that weren't funny. His face was flushed, the way it always got when he was trying to forget something, maybe work, maybe us. I excused myself, pretending I needed air, but really, I just needed quiet. The music bled through the open doors, half loud, half familiar. I didn't realize he'd followed me until I heard that same voice behind me. "Didn't think you'd leave before the encore," he said. I turned. It was him, the man from the stage. Up close, his voice was even smoother, unhurried, confident in the kind of way that didn't need to prove anything. "I just needed a break," I said. "Too loud in there?" "Too much of everything," I answered, glancing through the glass at Daniel. He was ordering another drink, hand on someone's shoulder, already losing focus. The man smiled. "You looked like you knew that song." "I did," I said quietly. "It used to mean something." He tilted his head. "And now?" "Now it's just a reminder." He nodded, not asking of what. There was something easy about him, like he already knew the answers but was polite enough to let me lie. Inside, another voice took the stage, breaking the quiet between us. He looked over my shoulder and grinned. "They're murdering this one." I laughed, the kind that slips out without permission. "Let me buy you a drink," he said. I hesitated. "My husband looks busy," he finished for me. I should have walked away. Instead, I followed him back inside. The lights seemed softer now, the air warmer. He ordered whiskey for both of us, and when the bartender poured it, his hand brushed mine, not deliberate, but not accidental either. Daniel was across the room, head lowered over the counter, laughing too loud again. For a second, I thought of walking over, of saying something, of reminding him I was still there. But then the man beside me said, "You know, I never sing that song unless it finds me first." I turned toward him, heart thudding. "And what happens after it finds you?" He smiled, slow, knowing. "It doesn't let go." I should have looked away. But I didn't. He went back to the small stage when the host called his name again. The lights dimmed to that same warm red, and his voice wrapped around the room like smoke. This time, though, he didn't look at anyone else, only at me. I watched him, pretending to be casual, my drink half finished, my pulse loud enough to drown the music. When he stepped off the stage, he stopped at my table instead of his own. "You sing?" he asked, leaning slightly, that teasing tone still in his voice. "Only in the shower." "Then this will be your debut." Before I could protest, he'd already told the host to cue another song, a duet. The screen lit up with the first lines, and I froze. It was a soft, slow song, one I knew by heart but hadn't sung in years. He offered his hand. "Trust me. I'll make you sound better." The crowd cheered, half-drunk and restless, just happy to see anyone brave enough to go up. I let him lead me, my heart pounding in my throat. The mic felt strange in my hand, cold, heavy, too intimate. Then the music started. He sang first, low, smooth, drawing the room in. When it was my turn, I barely got the words out. He leaned closer, singing the harmony just under my breath, his voice brushing against mine like it was touching skin instead of sound. We didn't look at the lyrics. We didn't have to. The whole bar disappeared. By the time the last note faded, the place had gone quiet, not because the crowd didn't care, but because they were watching something they shouldn't have been seeing. He smiled, eyes still on me. "Told you you'd sound good." I laughed, breathless. "You're dangerous." "Only if you stay," he said. Behind us, Daniel stumbled, nearly spilling his drink, too busy laughing with a friend to notice what just happened, how my hand lingered on the mic stand, how the man beside me was still standing too close. When we walked off stage, the applause broke through, and I felt something electric under my skin, the kind of current that starts small but doesn't stop once it begins. He leaned close enough for only me to hear. "You know," he said softly, "some songs aren't meant to end when the music stops." After the duet, everything felt different, too warm, too bright, like the air had shifted in the room. My hands were shaking, and I told myself it was from the adrenaline, from the stage lights, from the whiskey I hadn't finished. But when he looked at me again, smiling in that quiet, knowing way, I understood it wasn't that simple. Daniel didn't notice. He was leaning against the bar, laughing too hard, that sloppy charm he wore when he'd had one drink too many. His friend clapped him on the shoulder, and he waved me over, but I stayed where I was. He didn't insist. He never did anymore. The man, Ethan, he said his name was, sat beside me, and for a few minutes we didn't talk. We just listened to the next person sing, off-key and fearless. The neon lights painted his face in soft pinks and blues, and when he laughed quietly at a missed note, I couldn't help but smile. "You're good at this," I said. "Talking to strangers like it's easy." He looked at me, eyes half-lit by the glow of the screen. "Maybe you just don't feel like one." I didn't know what to say to that. The waitress passed by, and he ordered another drink for both of us. "For courage," he said. "I think we already used it all," I replied, but I drank anyway. The room around us blurred, music, lights, people, all melting into a soft hum. When our hands brushed on the counter, neither of us moved them away. A loud cheer went up from the other side of the bar. Daniel was on stage now, trying to sing an upbeat song he couldn't remember half the lyrics to. His friend was holding the mic, trying to help him, both of them laughing. He looked happy, drunk, but happy. And somehow, that made it easier to stop feeling guilty. Ethan leaned in slightly. "He'll be fine," he said, nodding toward Daniel. I hesitated. "You don't even know him." "I don't have to," he murmured. "I can tell when someone's already somewhere else." The song ended in laughter and applause. Daniel bowed dramatically, then nearly tripped off the stage. His friends caught him, still clapping. One of them gestured to me, saying they'd take him back to the hotel to sleep it off. I nodded, pretending it didn't mean anything. Pretending my heart wasn't racing. Ethan looked at me again, his voice softer now. "So, what happens after the music stops?" I opened my mouth to answer, but the next song started, and for some reason, I couldn't remember the words. Daniel's friends helped him out first, their laughter echoing down the hall. He slurred something about needing just one more, but they promised to get him into bed before sunrise. When one of them passed me at the door, he smiled apologetically. "We've got him," he said. "You stay, finish your drink." I watched them go, 3 silhouettes stumbling toward the elevator, Daniel's voice still singing a half-forgotten chorus. Then it was quiet again. Too quiet. Ethan leaned against the bar beside me, sipping what was left of his whiskey. "Looks like you've been abandoned," he said. "Temporarily," I answered. He smirked. "Then we should make good use of the time." He suggested a walk, said the air outside was better than recycled karaoke smoke. I hesitated for a moment, out of habit more than conviction, then nodded. The street was warm and wet from a light rain. Neon reflected off puddles, turning everything into liquid color. The city hummed in the distance, but the alley behind the bar was quiet, filled with the faint echo of music that hadn't quite died out. We walked without speaking for a while. Every few steps, our shoulders brushed, small, meaningless touches that didn't feel meaningless at all. "I didn't expect tonight to feel like this," I said finally. "Like what?" "Like something I'll have to explain to myself tomorrow." He laughed softly. "Then don't explain it. Just let it exist." We reached a small diner near the corner. He held the door open, and I followed him in, the bell above it jingling like a secret. The place was nearly empty, just a few night workers, the hum of an old fridge, and the smell of coffee that had been burning too long. We sat in a booth by the window, watching the rain start again. It was light at first, then heavier, drumming against the glass. He traced a finger along the condensation, absent-mindedly drawing circles. "Your husband will be fine," he said quietly. "He's got friends. A bed. A hangover waiting." "I know. You don't have to feel guilty for staying." I looked at him then, really looked, the soft stubble along his jaw, the small scar near his lip, the faint shine of sweat along his neck. He was real. Solid. Present in a way I hadn't felt from anyone in years. Outside, the rain blurred the world into light and movement. Inside, it was still. He reached across the table, his fingers brushing mine, not asking, just waiting. When I didn't pull away, he smiled. "So maybe we let the night decide what it wants to be." And for the first time all evening, I didn't think about where it might end. The rain didn't stop. It only grew quieter, a steady whisper against the glass, the kind that slows time down instead of washing it away. The diner lights flickered a little, turning his face soft and gold. I couldn't remember the last time I'd looked at someone that long without needing to say anything. Ethan's thumb brushed mine again, a small, patient motion that felt both innocent and dangerous. "We should probably head back," I said, though my voice lacked conviction. "Probably," he agreed, but neither of us moved. The waitress came by, left the bill, and gave me a knowing half-smile, one of those looks that says she'd seen this scene before. Maybe she had. Maybe this booth had been part of 100 quiet betrayals just like ours. Outside, the rain softened into mist. When we finally stepped out, the air felt new, sweet, heavy with electricity. I texted Daniel's friend to check on him. "He's out cold," came the reply. "Don't worry." Ethan stood close enough that his shoulder brushed mine. "Guess that means you're off duty for the night," he said lightly. I laughed, a nervous sound that dissolved in the damp air. "I think I've been off duty for a long time." We started walking toward the hotel. The streets were empty, slick with light. Our reflections moved together in the puddles, two shapes that shouldn't have fit, but somehow did. Every step felt both too slow and too fast. When we reached the lobby, I stopped. The place was quiet, the kind of silence that hums with the things you're not supposed to say. Ethan paused beside me, his hand still in his pocket, waiting. "You don't have to come in," I said softly. He met my eyes. "I know." But when the elevator doors opened, neither of us stepped back. Inside, the air felt smaller. The lights above us glowed faintly, humming like a heartbeat. I could smell the salt from his skin, the faint scent of rain still clinging to my hair. We stood too close for too long, pretending we were just waiting for the right floor. The elevator jolted once, stopped between floors, not for long, just enough to make me catch my breath. He looked at me then, the kind of look that erases all sense of reason, the kind that doesn't need words. And when the lights flickered, I stopped pretending. Later, I would tell myself it was the rain, or the music still echoing from the bar, or the emptiness that had been building for years. But in that suspended moment, between floors, between choices, it wasn't about loneliness. It was about feeling seen again. The elevator started moving a few seconds later. But by then, it had already carried us somewhere we couldn't come back from. The sound of the door clicking shut was the first thing I remembered. Then the faint hum of the air conditioner. Then the smell, salt, whiskey, and rain still clinging to the sheets. The room was dim, the curtains drawn, the city outside just beginning to wake up. For a moment, I lay still, the world caught between dream and memory. His shirt was on the chair. My dress on the floor. The kind of quiet that follows too many truths filled the room, fragile, heavy, impossible to keep. Ethan was sitting by the window, bare shoulders wrapped in early light, watching the street below. He didn't say anything at first. Just turned his head slightly when he realized I was awake. "You sleep okay?" he asked. His voice was calm, almost gentle. "I don't know," I said. "It doesn't feel real yet." He smiled faintly. "Maybe that's a mercy." For a long time, neither of us spoke. The sound of cars outside grew louder, people starting their days, chasing things that still mattered to them. "Daniel," I said finally, the name sticking to my tongue like something foreign. "He'll wonder where I am." Ethan nodded slowly. "You'll tell him you stayed with a friend. Or that you went for a walk after he fell asleep." "You've done this before?" His eyes softened. "I've been part of stories that didn't belong to me, yes." I sat up, pulling the sheet around me, feeling the weight of the night settle like sand on my skin. "This wasn't supposed to happen," I whispered. He looked at me then, really looked. "Most things that matter aren't." There was no regret in his voice. Only quiet understanding. He stood, started getting dressed. I watched the muscles in his back move under the thin morning light, every gesture deliberate, unhurried. When he was done, he came over, leaned down, brushed a kiss against my forehead. "I'll leave first," he said softly. "It's easier that way." When the door closed behind him, the silence that followed was different. Not peaceful, just final. I lay back, staring at the ceiling, tracing the shadows the blinds made across the walls. Somewhere below, a street musician was singing, muffled, distant. The same melody he'd sung that first night. And for the first time, I realized it wasn't the song that had found me. It was everything I'd tried to forget that finally did. By the time I made it back to our room, the hallway smelled of coffee and fresh towels. Daniel was still asleep, one arm thrown across the bed, the TV murmuring quietly in the background. His shoes were by the door, one of them tipped over, his shirt half on the chair, half on the floor. He must have barely made it in. I stood there for a long moment, just watching him breathe. His face looked younger when he slept, softer, like the man I used to know before life became lists and late calls. A wave of guilt washed over me, sharp and heavy, but it didn't stay long enough to drown me. I slipped into the bathroom, turned on the shower. The water was too hot, burning at first, but I didn't move. I let it sting, as if it could peel the night off me, the salt, the sweat, the sound of someone else's voice whispering my name in the dark. The mirror fogged over, hiding my reflection. Maybe that was for the best. When I came out, Daniel was half awake, groaning softly, rubbing his temples. "Morning," he muttered. "I think I might have overdone it." "Yeah," I said quietly, sitting on the edge of the bed. "You fell asleep as soon as you got in." He smiled weakly. "Guess I missed all the fun." I forced a smile back. "You didn't miss much." He reached for my hand, warm, clumsy, familiar. Next time, let's skip karaoke, huh? Sure, I said. Next time. He laughed softly, closed his eyes again, already drifting back to sleep. I stood and walked to the balcony. The air outside was sharp and clean, cutting through the dull ache in my chest. From up here, the city looked small, streets glistening from the night's rain, people moving like they had somewhere important to be. I did too. I just wasn't sure where anymore. The sky was pale, the color of salt and light. I wrapped my arms around myself, feeling the faint bruise where his hand had been on my waist, a ghost of a moment I couldn't undo. The song from last night echoed in my head again, clearer this time. The chorus played on a loop, and it didn't sound romantic anymore. It sounded like a confession. And when I finally went back inside, Daniel was still sleeping, the sheet rising and falling with every slow, steady breath. For a second, I envied him, how easy it was for him to forget. By midday, Daniel was feeling human again. Coffee, painkillers, and greasy breakfast, his usual cure. He was cheerful in that half-apologetic way of someone who didn't remember half of what they'd done the night before. I was a mess, huh, he said with a crooked grin. A little, I said, forcing a laugh. But nothing new. He chuckled, not catching the sting beneath the words. We spent the day pretending everything was fine. Lunch near the beach, sunglasses hiding tired eyes, our small talk neat and careful. But the sound of that karaoke bar stayed with me, the crowd, the songs, the voice that had found me in the noise. When Daniel napped later, I slipped out, saying I wanted a walk. My heart beat too fast as soon as I closed the door behind me. The air was heavy and warm, the city slower now, afternoon quiet stretching over the streets. I didn't know if I was looking for Ethan. But somehow, I ended up near the same corner, the same cracked neon sign buzzing faintly in daylight. The bar was closed, doors locked, chairs stacked. Still, I stood there for a while, pretending to check my phone, pretending I didn't feel the weight of last night everywhere around me. Then I heard a voice behind me. Couldn't stay away? I turned. He was leaning against the wall, wearing the same jacket, hair still messy like the wind had claimed it. He smiled, small but real. I wasn't looking for you, I said. I know. But you came anyway. He stepped closer, not enough to touch, just enough that the air between us tightened. The city was quiet, only the sound of cars far off and a busker down the street strumming something soft. You could come in, he said, nodding toward the alley behind the bar. There's a door that's always open for regulars. I'm not one. Maybe you are now. I should have walked away. I should have turned back, gone to the hotel, crawled into bed beside my husband, and pretended none of it happened. But the truth was, I'd already crossed that line. The rest was just geography. I followed him into the alley. The smell of rain still lingered. Somewhere inside, a radio played the faint echo of last night's songs, one of them ours. And as the door closed behind us, I realized. It wasn't guilt I felt anymore. It was silence, and it sounded a lot like peace. Evening came again, slow and golden. Daniel was packing their things, the trip was ending. He hummed quietly, the same tune from the karaoke bar, not realizing how much weight it now carried. I don't even remember singing this, he said with a laugh. Guess I really was gone. You were, I answered softly. Completely. He smiled, kissed her forehead. Next time, somewhere quieter. Just you and me. She nodded, but her chest tightened. Next time. There was always a next time for him, always something to fix later. When he went down to check out, she stayed behind. The room looked too neat now, sheets tucked, glasses washed, the night erased. But she could still feel it, faint as salt on her lips, warm as breath against her skin. She checked her phone one last time. A single message blinked on the screen. Ethan, did you find the song again? She typed a reply, I still hear it. Then deleted it before sending. At the airport, Daniel slept through the flight, headphones in, head turned toward the window. She watched clouds pass below, white and harmless. The same hands that once held her now hung loose at his side. She thought about the song, the way it started soft, the way it built and broke. The way every note still lived somewhere inside her, no matter how far she flew. When they landed, Daniel stretched, smiling. "Home." "Yeah," she whispered. "Home." But as they walked through the terminal, the city lights blinking in rhythm like a beat she couldn't unhear, she realized. Some songs don't end when the music stops. They just play quieter, somewhere underneath your skin. Home felt smaller than it used to. The walls seemed to echo with every sound, the hum of the fridge, the tick of the clock, Daniel's voice on another late-night call. Everything was familiar, but none of it felt like it belonged to her anymore. He was already back to his rhythm, gym in the morning, emails at breakfast, quick kisses before leaving, messages like "love you, busy day." They lived in the same space but on different frequencies, like two radios playing separate songs in the same room. One evening, she found herself scrolling through her phone, almost without thinking. Her finger hovered over a number she never saved but still remembered. She typed 3 words, "Still hear it." Then deleted them. Again. Downstairs, Daniel was laughing on a work call, glass clinking against the table. She stood in the doorway, watching the outline of the man she once loved, still the same, but blurred somehow, like a memory she couldn't quite bring into focus. She went outside, barefoot, the cool pavement grounding her. The night air was soft, humming faintly with distant traffic. Somewhere nearby, a car passed with the windows down, music spilling out, familiar and haunting. The song. That same chorus, drifting like a ghost through the dark. For a second, she closed her eyes, and it was all there again, the bar lights, the stage, his voice, the way the room had disappeared. The sound wasn't coming from her memory this time. It was real. She turned the corner, just once, just to see. The car was stopped at the light, windows open, the same melody floating into the night. And then she saw him, Ethan, behind the wheel, head tilted toward the music, not singing this time, just listening. Their eyes met, one glance, one heartbeat, one unfinished lyric between them. No smile. No wave. Just recognition. The light turned green. He drove on. She stood there long after he was gone, the chorus still echoing faintly. It wasn't longing she felt anymore, or guilt. It was something quieter, the ache of knowing some songs never fade completely, they just live somewhere in the silence after. Days turned into weeks, and life found its rhythm again, at least, that's what it looked like from the outside. Daniel was back at work full-time, his laughter echoing through video calls, the sound of success and exhaustion blended together. He'd kiss her goodbye each morning and return late at night, smelling of rain and city air. She tried to match his rhythm. She cooked, cleaned, replied to messages, smiled when she needed to. But something inside her was quieter now, softer, like a radio tuned just slightly off station, still playing a song, but faint, blurred by static. At night, when Daniel fell asleep, she'd lie awake staring at the ceiling, tracing invisible shapes on the sheets. The world outside their window moved on, cars, lights, the hum of a city too alive to care about secrets. And beneath it all, she could still hear that voice. His voice. The way it filled a room without asking for permission. One evening, Daniel suggested they go out, dinner, drinks, maybe another karaoke bar. "I redo," he said, smiling. "You deserve a better night than the last one." Her heart tightened, then steadied. She said yes. The bar was different this time, brighter, newer, no smoky corners or broken neon signs. But when she sat down, microphone lights flickering in the distance, she felt something shift inside her chest. She ordered wine. Daniel ordered beer. They laughed. It felt almost easy. Almost. Then, halfway through the night, the speakers crackled, and the opening chords of that song played. The one that started everything. Her heart froze. Daniel groaned. "Not this again," he said, already laughing. "I butchered it last time." But before anyone else could go up, a voice joined in, smooth, familiar, unhurried. The crowd cheered as if they'd been waiting for it. Ethan. He stood on stage, framed in blue light, singing like the world hadn't ended between them. His eyes scanned the crowd once, found her instantly, and didn't look away. The lyrics fell between them like confession and forgiveness all at once. Daniel nudged her. "That guy's good, huh?" She nodded, her throat dry. "Yeah. Really good." For 3 minutes, time folded in on itself, the past, the guilt, the ache, the pull, all replaying under the same melody that had started it all. When the song ended, Ethan smiled, small and quiet. Not at her, not really. Just into the air, like someone saying goodbye without sound. Then he handed the mic back to the host, walked off stage, and disappeared into the noise. Daniel stood, stretching. "Let's go home," he said, yawning. "Long day tomorrow." She followed him outside. The city air was cool, the wind carrying the last echo of the song down the street. She stopped for a moment, looking up at the glowing sign, the door still swinging open from where Ethan had walked through. The night moved on. So did she. But as she slipped her hand into Daniel's and felt the familiar warmth of his palm, she realized something. Some betrayals don't live in guilt or regret. They live in music. In every note that reminds you what it felt like to be alive, even for a moment. And somewhere, deep in the quiet of her heart, the song played again, softly, endlessly. And never really stopped.